In the patient collections training, we're going to first look at how you can generate the patient statements. So any patients that have a patient responsible balance, which is either a bill to patient or a bill to guarantor, you can generate patient statements for them. Now, to access the patient statement generation screen, you can either navigate to the charges menu, and there is the generate patient statement. The same screen can also be accessed from Report Central, where your report package is. So on the Report Central, you can go and look for report section C, which is patient. The C2 is the generate patient states. So if you click on that C2, it opens up into the patient statement generation screen. Now, when generating statements, there are various filters here that you could use for generating your statement. Of course, if you have legal entities or billing entities, multiple billing entities, you can use the legal entity. You can also use case type. If you want to run for an individual patient, you can select the patient here. You can also use case type and case number combinations as well. Due amount from and to. If you do not want statements to be generated for patients who owe a less due amount, so let's say if they're total, or you don't want statements to be generated for patients who owe a due amount less than $5, for example. So we can enter $5 in the due amount from, and in the due amount to, you can enter a large number in there. So it does not generate statements for anyone who has less than $5 as total due. The appointment date from and to, if you are using Practice Suite's appointment scheduler, and if you want to generate the statements for patients that have appointments or for a particular date or date range, you can use the appointment date from and to. Let's say if you've got, for example, 5 patients in your today's schedule, and maybe before they walk into the office, you want to keep a statement ready for them. So you can put the appointment date today's date in there, and you can generate the list of statements for patients who are in your schedule for today. There's also patient last name between filter, which is you can separately generate using patient last name. This may be helpful for those who have a large statement list that's going to be printed, and you don't want to print all of them together or send all of them together, and you want to kind of split them. So you can use the last name filter to split those statements. Now to the right, you've got a checkbox for include close lines, which you can use for including close lines to appear on the statements. The next is exclude patients with on account. Now any patients that have a credit money, if you want to exclude them from the statement generation, you can check this box to exclude those patients from the list. Now the system will only exclude patients whose on account balance is either greater or equal to the patient balance. So if they have a less credit money than their balance, they will still be on the statement list. Next, you have primary insurance. You can select patients with a particular primary insurance or without a primary insurance. That's another filter. Then no payment received since. So let's say you want to generate statements today, but you don't want to generate statements for any patients who have paid in the past 30 days. So you want to exclude those patients who have recently paid, for example. So maybe in 30 days or last 15 days or whatever the threshold that you want to enter here. You can enter the number of days, and so let's say when I'm creating statements today, I don't want to send statements for anyone who has paid in the past 15 days. So I can put this no payment received since threshold. Statement count between the system. Every statement that the system creates, it attaches a statement count. So if you want to regenerate statements today for patients whom, for example, you have sent 3 statements in the past, or for example 4 statements in the past, or maybe even 1 statement in the past, you can use the statement count for that purpose. So I can say, okay, any patients who have had 3 statements in the past, so I can use statement count between 3 and 3, and so it'll give me the list of those patients who have 3 statements in the past. Now also you have a filter here for exclude patients with statements sent in the last number of days is what you would enter in the field. So if you have sent statements, or if you kind of send statements weekly or every few days, and you don't want those patients to appear on this list, you can exclude those patients from who have been recently generated a statement from being excluded from the list. So you can say any exclude patients who have been sent statements in the last 30 days, for example. Let's say if your cycle is every 30 days, so you want to enter this as 30 days. So any patients who have had statements generated in the past 30 days, they will not come up in the list. Now there's also other filters like as on date is what the default it checks on. So as on date, whatever the patients owe, that's what the statement is going to generate for. Now if you want to do for a selected date range, you can also enter a date range or date of service, particular date of service or date of service range. Aging bucket, you can also use the aging bucket days from and to. The last run date, you can also use this filter for excluding any patients who have had a last run. So any patients who have had last run date that you enter here, only those patients who have been put to the patient balance after that date, those patients will appear on the list for statement generation. Also, you can have a dunning message go out on the statement. Just enter a message here. That'll appear on every PDF. If you are generating the PDF statement format, that message will appear on every PDF state. Then there is do not print reason codes. When you post denials or attach payer remarks to claims, those are patient statement remarks. That is, there's a box there on the chart screen, which if you have put any remarks, that will appear on the statement, which is a PDF statement. But if you want to exclude that from the statement, you can check this box to be excluded. Similar to that, on the PDF, there's a aging section that gets printed. If you want to exclude that, you can check this as well. And there's a sorting, which you can either sort by patient or guarantor. Because I filled in a lot of filters here, I'm going to just close out and reopen the screen once again so I get a fresh screen. So you can use whichever filters that you want to select here and hit the generate option. Once you hit the generate, you can see it shows a list, and once the list gets displayed, you can either select all or select the ones that you want to generate the statement for. So you can select the patients whom you want to generate the statements, or do a select all. Now you can also see what their balance amount is, if they have any on account money, and the statement count, how many statements have been created for them in the past. So it shows the full list here of how many patients are going to have a statement generated based on the filters that you have selected. Now you can, once you have checked the patients, you can either hit the generate PDF, which is the standard statement format, or you can use other options to generate statements. So we'll just go through these options. There's a private statement, which is statement format, which is typically used for institutional or hospital billing, which you could use a private statement for that. The generate detail is a very detailed statement format, which is kind of like a statement activity. You can use that for generate a detailed statement. The CSV is for generating a comma separated value statement, which is the electronic statement. If you want to upload it to a statements company, a third-party company whom you want them to mail the statements out on your behalf, you can upload this CSV file to that statements company, and they will for them to send it out for you. So that's the generate CSV. The PDF, of course, is a standard statement. There are two filters here, which is with payslip or without payslip. So the default is without the payslip. And there's a send to TriZetto, which is our partnered clearinghouse for statements. We can activate that service for you, and then if you hit the send to TriZetto, it actually generates a CSV file from the system and sends it to the clearinghouse, a TriZetto clearinghouse, which will then print and mail it on your behalf. Now we're also going to look at the standard statement. So I'll hit the generate PDF, and so I had selected 3 patients, and so just generate the statements for those 3 patients. So this is the standard statement format. So these are the 3 patients whom I had selected on that list. So this is the option that I chose was default, which is without the payslip. But if you want to generate it with the payslip, you can use with payslip, and I'll hit the generate PDF here. And this one will have the payslip also attached to the statement, which is a tear of a slip, which can be mailed back by the patient or provided by the patient. So that was the statement generation step, how you would generate statements. Now, once you have statements generated for patients, you can run a report to see the past statements that have been generated. So let's say if you want to look at a report to see which all patients have had statements generated in the past, you can run the C3, which is a patient statement summary report. I'll just open that report, and you can run the date range or enter the date range and hit search, and it'll bring you a list of statements that have been generated within that date range. And you can also see that it shows you the patient's name, the record number, the statement number, and the date the statement was generated, the type of statement, whether it was PDF or CSV. It also shows the charges paid, adjusted, and balance that went out on the statement, who generated it, and the date and time it was generated. Also, you can, if you want to export this report, you have got an Excel on the top left hand side option to export this to a report in Excel. Also, if you click on the statement number, it shows you a snapshot of the statement. So if I click here, It's going to actually show you a snapshot of that statement. So that's a snapshot of the statement. If you want to regenerate the statements, so let's say if you want to regenerate any statements here, you can check them. And there is the generate CSV, which you can regenerate into the CSV format. Or if you want to regenerate to the PDF, you can just hit the print statement and it will reopen those statements into the PDF format. In addition to looking at a report level of the past statements generated, you can also see statement history in the patient's account itself. So if you open up a patient, and let's just go to this first patient. So I open up the patient's account and you can see there is a statement history tab. And in the statement history tab, if you go to in the patient's account, you can see it here also. You can see the statements that have been generated in the past, and you've got all those fields: the statement number, date of the statement, and the balance, and the generated activity, the user who created the statement, as well as the date and time. Now back on this report, the report type that was selected here was statement, but you can also generate other reports, like if you want to generate collections report, like patients whom you have moved or created a collections file, or patients whom you have moved to the pre-collection status. You can also run this same report to look at those patients as well. We would be discussing the collections and pre-collections or moving patients to collections or pre-collections in the next part.